Minimalists.
Yeah, we got a question from Leisha.
How will I know when I've found the one?
Woo.
Man.
Here, I'll give you an opinion. In fact, on the Maximal, I'm going to read this excerpt from our forthcoming book about this. It's called The One Lie. Because ultimately, I think the idea of finding the one, like, I get it. There's a lot of romantic comedies that make me feel like my wife is the one.
Right.
Sure.
There are other ones, though.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest.
Well, people who have been married more than once,
Right.
Yeah.
would tell you that they thought that first one was the one,
Yeah.
and now the second one is the one.
And it's interesting too, because like they actually could have been the one for the 10 years, and then, I mean, shit changes, man. People change. It's like So I think I agree with you. The one is a lie. You have to be open to that person always maybe being the one, but also open to like maybe they won't be the one day. You know, there's nothing wrong with approaching a relationship like that. I feel like.
First, I will say you mentioned romantic comedy, and you give me a McConaughey failure to launch vibe.
Do I?
Yeah. All right.
All right.
But I don't know about the idea of the one.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. When I met my wife, 10 days later, I called my parents. And I'd never talked about marriage before, and I was like, oh, I'm marrying her. Mm-hmm. There was something about her in specific that was just different, made me feel differently than anybody I had ever met. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know about that. And I don't know if it's, God forbid, anything ever happened or we broke up, if I would ever feel that way about somebody else. I have no idea.
Right.
I do know that this woman was different than any other woman I had ever met before. Yeah. And when I met her, I don't know if you know this about me. I was a single dad. I was raising 3 kids.
Right. And they're all grown now.
They're all grown. Yeah. I had met a woman early on in my life who had 2 kids. And we had a kid together, when we broke up, I kept all 3 kids. And so when I met Beth, that feeling for the one, oddly enough, I had kind of reserved for my kids. I was like, this is where my heart is going to be.
Yeah.
From here on out.
We're definitely going to be talking about that because, I think this idea of love is like, there are different kinds of love. Right.
And I had never felt, when I met her after that first night, I was like, this just must be because I hadn't been close to a grown woman in a long time. This is why because I had just been with 3 kids, and I had in my brain, it's funny, in my brain, people had always tried to set me up. I'm like, hey, I'm not going out. I'm at a 7 as far as 7 to 10 happy. I know what it's like. One of these breakups brings you down to a 0.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to go to 0 with these 3 kids. So 7 is cool. I'm happy. I'm raising these kids. They bring me so much joy. There's a part of my life I'm just going to neglect for a while. And I was okay with that because I wasn't really willing to risk going back down to that fucking bottom with the 3 kids. It was just crushing doing it before.
Yeah.
But meeting her right away was like, oh, this is a different person.
Yeah.
So like,
I agree with you. I think Ryan and I both felt that about our wives as well. So, but what I'm saying with respect to the one, in fact, Dan Savage has this great line. He says, "There is no one, so find your 7.9 that rounds up to 1."
Yeah.
Right. And because you even talked about how like there are certain things, or when we talk about Aaron's question, the dishes. Well, he's not the one. He's the 9.7 though that you can round up, or the 0.97 you can round up to a 1, and. I think, unfortunately, looking for the one sets a really bad expectation because it presupposes there's going to be the perfect relationship, and I think when we're seeking that, we're just setting ourselves up for tumbling down a hill of discontent.
I think romantic comedies Hollywood does a complete disservice to actual relationships. Yeah. Because you see these 2 people and you're like, oh, I should feel like that. And this relationship, it's not that one that I saw on TV.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for that feeling. And guess what? That feeling doesn't happen. Like that. Here's the bottom line. I'll tell you this right now. I love my wife. I don't love her enough to stand out in the rain and kiss her with my jeans on. That's, you know what I mean? Like, that is a romantic comedy thing. You're not going to find anybody I like willing enough to stand out in wet jeans. Wet jeans is the worst feeling ever. Dude. You know what I mean? So it's just so I love you, but not wet jeans.
Yeah, not wet jeans love you. Oh my god.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about those movies is that the movie is the story leading up to that kiss, which is really the beginning of their relationship.
Yeah.
It's leading up to them finally getting together. You don't see the movie about after they get together and have kids
Yeah.
and have all the other shit that happens in life.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
yeah, I totally agree, man. It's a bit of a disservice because that feeling, you might be able to capture that kissing someone in the rain feeling, but that's not going to last forever. That's a pleasure that is ephemeral, and it's okay to feel that pleasure, but to expect to feel that pleasure 100% of the time up until the day you die, like that's
what it is, right? Is that it's not that pleasure you might not get it for a second, but to expect your relationship day in and day out to be this fairy tale, and not to. I think people pull the plug on relationships, marriages especially, too quickly now.
Yeah,
like as soon as there's one lull, they think, well, that's the fucking end of the relationship.
right.
That's it. But you're gonna have lulls. Yeah. You just gotta ride them out together.
Yeah.
Like we've been together since 2001. There have been a lot of ebbs.
Yeah.
Right.
But you just have to go, this is an ebb.
I think you got to make sure you're still compatible, though. Our friend Dr. Christopher Ryan, he talks about the 3 things that are necessary in a relationship. So instead of looking for the one, I'd probably look for these 3 things. First off is chemistry, and I think that's what you're talking about when you met your wife first day. Of course, there's chemistry,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
We often mistake lust for love, but I think there's chemistry in other relationships as well, non-sexual relationships. Like Ryan and I have a particular chemistry. We even use those terms, right, when we're talking. So any relationship has chemistry. Any relationship has love, any good relationship at least. And any relationship has compatibility. Those 3 things are required. I think the problem quite often is that we get into a relationship because 1 or maybe even 2 of those are working, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the chemistry. It's there. We're all over each other all day. It's great. And yeah, of course I love her. I have this deep affection for this person, right? But then you realize, like, oh no, we're not compatible, and there could be a thousand reasons why you're not compatible. Like if your wife is like, no, I hate kids, I never want to see a kid in my life, you'd be like, well, that's kind of a problem for us, right?
You see those 3 people?
She's like, can you just put a blanket on them?
Right. Have a packing party with them.
Just tell me what time they go to sleep. I'll be over after that.
Right, and so I think we have to realize that, like, quite often we're not compatible. Now there are other things that happen as well. When we get into toxic relationships, then of course you want to abandon that as soon as you can. If someone is behaving in a toxic way, whether it's verbal abuse or God forbid violence or something, let go of that, because that rage stems from a deep sort of insecurity or immaturity, as do any of our sort of anger issues. I think they often stem from this place of insecurity.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, though, Alicia, you want to realize that you are complete in an empty room, right? And so whoever you bring into your life, they're going to enhance or augment or amplify your experience of life. They're not going to complete you. They're not the one that completes you. You're already complete.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we've had time to prepare for this answer. So we've got some pithy stuff ready. Mine is, love from another is not a substitute for self-love. And I think people, they often tell themselves, if I find the one, then my life is going to be complete. And it's really what I'm saying. It's the same thing as Josh, is you have to be really comfortable with yourself, and then you can bring someone in to like amplify your life. But love from someone else is not going to it's not going to be a substitute for that love that you need to have for yourself, or that acceptance that you need to have for yourself. Even though it seems like a really easy fix, like, oh man, I got a bad life, I really don't like who I am, I need to find someone who loves me, that'll make me feel good. Sometimes it actually makes you feel worse, because then you got someone who loves you and who's treating you well, but you still don't feel like you deserve that love, so then that comes out in other ways.
Josh, have you ever felt like you've gotten into a relationship or known anyone who's gotten into a relationship who didn't really much like themselves, and they thought that it was going to fix them in a way?
Oh yeah, one of my so it's a okay, there's somebody who's very close to me. I'm not gonna,
you don't have to say any
we won't
names.
go with name,
Yeah.
but
Let's say it's Tim.
a friend
yeah.
of a friend of a friend.
It's heartbreaking for me, because she is incredibly unhappy with who she is and has turned to alcohol and dudes to try to fill that whole.
Yeah.
And is willing to do things that she doesn't like and is willing to be a person that she doesn't want to be in order to keep somebody's love. And it's heartbreaking for me to watch because the thing that really makes you beat your head against a wall, which is like, how come that person doesn't see? And it doesn't matter how many times you say it to them. I wish you saw what we see when you look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
But she doesn't. She has zero self-worth. She has zero feelings that she's lovable or that she's worth love. And so she's constantly chasing it from people. And because of that, never finds it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, she's always feeling empty.
Yeah.
You can't fill a hole with a cup in it.
Yeah.
Or a cup with a hole in it.
Yeah.
I like the other way.
Fill a hole with a cup in it.
That's great.
Yeah.
But I too, I battle a little bit with depression. And I can feel it coming. And even though I'm cognizant of it and I know when I'm in it, I'm always looking for other things. And so when I'm depressed, I smoke more weed or whatever it is to fill. So the reason I see it so much in her and it's so heartbreaking, I feel it for like maybe a week it's dark. Those are dark, deep places. When I talk to her, she's like, this is where I am all the time.
Damn.
All the time.
Yeah.
And so it's really heartbreaking to know that she feels stuck. And there's nothing that I feel like that anybody from the outside can really do until she gets tired of feeling that way. I don't know if she can be, your instinct is to rescue or to go help. And so it's a really tough situation for me and Beth because we're both super close to her and feel super helpless, but just watch from the outside as that drain just gets circled all the time,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, is there any,
I mean, I think when you're in a place like that, like you have to stop bringing in external things to try and fill that hole. So how do you get her to that point? Like someone is not going to get help until they want help. And the help that I would recommend for someone like that is you got to surround yourself with like an awesome community. So whether that's like a racquetball club or church, whatever it is, like find a community a supportive community that you can get behind and go talk to a professional, man. Like I got an awesome therapist, and I'm telling you, having a good therapist is like one of the best tools that you can have in life.
She lies to her therapist.
Woo. Yeah. So she's got to be honest first.
She lies to her therapist.
She lies to herself.
Yeah.
The only therapist that stuck, I finally found out stuck because the therapist wasn't challenging her.
Oh. Yeah.
So she was lying to the therapist and and I would talk to the therapist and be like, what's the deal? And she'd say, well, this is what she's saying. And I was like, this is not the truth.
Yeah.
And you're letting her get away with that. So there's no honesty in the safest place possible.
Yeah.
There's no honesty. It's been really tough to watch because you're constantly you think somebody else's love is going to make you whole. And it just, but because that person who's chasing that love always finds unhealthy love.
Yeah.
Because she's willing to be treated in whatever manner that person wants to treat her, as long as he stays.
There's a temporary thing that she's obviously getting from the alcohol and from the men, and that's just it. It's temporary. That's why she just continues to go after it. But it makes me think. I had a family relative who they were addicted to heroin. Had a few family relatives addicted to heroin, and this parent of this family member brought me in, and they're like, dude, he's off the rails. Like, we just tell him something to help him. And I'm looking at him, and he's just like, hey, what's up, hey, what's up? And I'm like, there's nothing to do here. Like, this kid does not want help. Like, there's nothing for me to say to this person. Like, they don't want help. I could give them the best Tony Robbins speech that they've ever heard right now, like the most motivational speech that this person has ever heard. But I can see that they don't want the help. So no matter how much help you give someone, if they don't want it, like, they're never going to fix themselves. She's got to start being honest with herself. But until she wants to change, like, what are you going to do? You can't force someone to be honest with themselves.
You can't drag him or her kicking and screaming to success, right? Like I'm going to make you successful. I'm going to make you whatever. It goes back to the whole thing. You can't change the people around you. You can't actually change someone unless they're trying to change. Yeah. I don't think people actually hate change though. They hate being changed. We all like good changes, right? Like if all of a sudden you look in your banking account and there was an extra $100,000 in there, I love this kind of change. Like,
is there something you want to tell me?
Yeah.
You're the 100th guest. What?
Or you get a pair of pants out and there's like a pocket full of change in there. You're like, I love this change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's heartbreaking to watch someone you love not. You know, you want to shake change into them, but you can't. You know, I've had addicts in my family, and like it's heartbreaking to watch. But you do realize like there's nothing I can do to change. This goes back to that question for the woman washing the dishes. There's nothing I can do to change you. Zero things that I'm going to say is going to change who you are.
Yeah, it might change my behavior temporarily.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel a resentment because of it, though, and the resentment's obviously never good for the relationship.